I was recently scrolling through social media when I came across this quote from C.S. Lewis, who's one of my all-time favorite writers. And when I read this quote, it absolutely stopped me dead in my tracks. C.S. Lewis said this: "Every idea of God that we form, He must in mercy shatter. The most blessed result of prayer would be to rise saying, 'But I never knew before. I never dreamed.'" I think that's the disposition of St. Peter in this weekend's gospel. When we see St. Peter, he and his fellow fishermen have been out all night fishing, and they have caught nothing. And then Jesus says to St. Peter, "Go out into the deep and lower your nets for a catch. Try one more time." And I love St. Peter's response. It's so honest. He says to Jesus, "Master, we have been out all night, and we have caught nothing." I think that we can all point to moments in our lives when we too feel like we have caught nothing. Moments when we have worked so hard for something and reached the end of our strength and feel like we have nothing. Moments when we feel crushed by a paralyzing suffering and cry out to God, "I have nothing left." But it's in this moment of having nothing that St. Peter steps out in a bold act of trust. He says to Jesus, "At your command, I will lower the nets." He has no proof that things will change. He has no proof that this time there will be fish in his net. But he chooses trust. And what happens? The nets are tearing because of how much fish he catches. They have to bring in more boats to try to contain the abundance that the Lord provides. And when St. Peter sees this abundance, when he sees that the Lord is trustworthy, he comes to a deeper knowledge of who he is as a sinner and who God is as his Savior. And he falls to his knees in front of Jesus and he says, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man." What does Jesus do? Jesus bestows an unfathomable dignity on St. Peter in this moment. He says to him, "Do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching men." And from that moment onward, St. Peter leaves everything else behind to follow Jesus. Brothers and sisters, the Lord is speaking those same words to you and me today. Do not be afraid. What an incredible rallying cry that is for us to take into every moment of our lives. Do not be afraid. To believe that Jesus is who he says he is and he will provide for us. Do not be afraid. To step out in a bold act of trust in him, even if it feels like we have nothing left. Do not be afraid. To unite our hearts so closely to his in prayer and there, hear what he has to say to us. He'll tell us that we're loved in that prayer. He will tell us that we're precious to him. He'll tell us that we're his. He will tell us that he is our Father and that we are wanted by him. And as we rise from that prayer, as we rise from our knees, I know our hearts will echo those words that C.S. Lewis wrote. But I never knew before. I never dreamed.